Is this better?
Yes, I think we're better now. Yes.
Okay.
Let me check. I think so. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we were talking about thank you everyone for your patience. That's we have to be professional. We're talking about forgiveness, and I love the point where you said, therapy has not forced you to forgive anybody because it's a journey you took on your own,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a personal decision that you have to make.
Mm-hmm.
However, I want to ask if, there are people, for example, who still sort of like trigger you, all your emotions, right? Would you say that, therapy has helped you put boundaries in place where they don't trigger you anymore? Let's say, for example, someone did something to you a few years ago. And now this is for those who are really in tune with therapy and healing. And then you've tried in your heart to say, okay, I've forgiven this person, just me by myself. But then every time you say something about them, you're still triggered, right? How do you handle that? Based on your own experience, how do you handle such triggers from people who you're trying so hard to set boundaries with, but then it's almost inevitable?
Okay. Thank you. First, I would say that therapy actually helped me become very good at setting boundaries. Because of the nature of work that I do, and I'm sure you relate again.
Mhm.
Sometimes there's a very blurred line between your personal life and work.
Mhm.
Then there's a whole lot. In my own case, there's a whole lot. So first child, first daughter. My father is a pastor. There's just sometimes you don't even know that you don't have boundaries as a person. But going to therapy just made me realize that certain locks and keys must be put in place because you cannot continue like this. And then every time my therapist to say, when you set a boundary in place, watch out for the person that is pushing back. That person has always benefited from you not having boundaries. And it made sense. So people will call you anytime. And I'm like, don't call me between this period of time. And I watched some people get angry. I'm like, wow. Certain things. There are certain words I will never let you use, when you're speaking to me.
Mm.
Not because you might use them for yourself, but when you're talking to me, don't use them.
Mm.
Don't. And, those are boundaries. Are there people that still trigger me? Oh, but of course, yes. There are people that trigger me because um, life.
Mm.
And I admit earlier that there are people that I'm not yet in a space where I'm ready to forgive them totally. And so when I hear about them or when they do something, because some of them still try to do things, I get triggered all over again. And it doesn't help that people expect me to be the bigger person. When I want to react, they start to remind you, but you're a feminist, but your daddy is a pastor, but this, but that, forgetting that I'm a human being and I have emotions. So they might be running all amok in town, and I'm here triggered and I cannot push back. So, yes, there are
Mm.
people that still trigger me.
Mhm.
Um, Babies used to trigger me. Babies used to
Mm.
trigger me. On Friday was the first day since 2018 that I held a baby. But so I'd say that me holding a baby on Friday and not crying. In fact, I was dragging the baby with the baby's mother, who is my friend. I'd say that, okay, fingers crossed, knock on wood, it's no longer a trigger. But yeah, there are people that trigger me. And
Mm.
despite the fact that I'm still in therapy, they still trigger me. So one day they will not trigger me again. You know? One day they
Yeah.
won't, but they still do. Some of them
And
know. Some of them know.
yeah, and I'm really happy, the part you shared about the baby. That gives me a lot of joy. That's because, of course, beyond the internet that I know you and I know that struggle that you've had to deal with. So I'm truly, truly happy that you and we all gave you the time to get there.
Thank
You
you.
know, everyone around you. I think that, you know, I mean, like you said, sometimes people don't understand the pathway to
Mm-hmm.
healing.
Mm-hmm.
Folks want you to get up and just, I mean, let me use the Nigerian artist who unfortunately lost a child recently. And I'm beginning to see people say, why has he not put out a statement? Why have they not said something? Is it not, can't they continue living their life? And in my head, like, are these people human? Do you understand what trauma means? Trauma are your mates. Do you
Mm-hmm.
do you guys even understand what it means for people to just live through something and pick themselves back up and be human again? Right? So I wanna say that, you know, I'm really, really proud of you and
Thank
anyone on this show right now who has gone through any form of trauma or the other who is trying to find healing, trying to find the light again. You know, that's beautiful. Blessing, you know, you also do, you know, a lot of work when it comes to GBV, supporting women and children. How has that work, you know, that side of your life, you know, how has that passion for you, how has it, you know, sort of like supported your healing process? Because on one hand, you're helping other people, right? How has it supported your healing process? How as a person?
So, one thing that therapy did for me or does for me is the fact that I've been able to open up about my work to someone else.
Mm, mm,
So, the kind of work that we do, we
mhm,
hear a lot of stuff, and
mm,
the key tenet of our work is confidentiality. You cannot share certain things, and it stays with you. It stays with you. I
mm,
remember that it was an issue in my marriage because um, my ex would want to know everything. And I'm like, there are certain things I cannot tell you because confidentiality. Sometimes I would delete stuff from my phone. And he's like, why are you deleting stuff? And I'm like, you are going through my phone. There's no how you will not see it. And these things are confidential. And it's the same thing here. You can get into, in fact, in Canada here, you can get into big trouble. There are things that I know that my manager cannot know because I was told in confidence. The only time I can, tell someone else is if I
mm,
feel that the person is at risk or
mm,
if the child at risk, then of course I would have to bypass and call. I've had to call 911 many times for women, for children, because you cannot tell me that somebody is going to beat you and I'm like, okay, yeah, confidentiality. No, hell no. I used to volunteer at a shelter for women. Many times I'm on the phone with the woman. I can hear their partner in the background screaming at them, threatening to do all sorts. And of course, I'm not going to wait for you to tell me, oh, he's not going to beat me. Hell no. I'm going to call someone.
mm.
And so, working with my therapist, there are days I go to therapy and I just talk about work because there's no one I can talk to about it. I mentioned that my office has a counseling unit. It's a very thin line talking about certain cases with the counseling unit of my office, especially if it's active cases that my office is handling. I cannot come and tell you about that because, of course, it goes on record. And so my therapist, God bless her, she has heard all sorts of things. She has heard me scream, like really scream, shout, and all that. So therapy, and I will say this, as much as I knew that I was carrying burden, I didn't know how bad it was till I started talking about it. There are cases I've handled in Nigeria 10 years ago that have stayed with me. And it took talking about it for me to realize that, oh my God, this thing, it stayed in my head. And that's one of the reasons I actually want to pivot into another career entirely, because as much as I will always do work in GBV, I know that my time as a frontline person, as a responder, is coming to an end. My mental health cannot take it, because there's a certain expectation people expect from you. So someone is freaking out and I'm there. Of course, I'm supposed to be the calm person, but many times I want to freak out with that person. In fact, many times I want to suggest to the person that, but yeah, we should go and beat this person up, because all this long distance that we want to do, it did not meet me at home, mainly. But the ethics of the profession is that I should be the calm person. So I'm there telling you to calm down. I am interfacing on your behalf. Meanwhile, I'm ready to go and fight. Let's enter car and go. But it doesn't work that way. So therapy, in fact, it was during therapy I realized that I cannot do this job I cannot continue. I can't, because what will happen is that one day you just hear that I'm going to beat somebody up, and because I'm tired. There are things that have happened that and you call the police is still there. They're still saying, so everybody have to calm down. And I'm looking like, eba me funiko now, just a little knock on the head. You understand? So therapy has helped me unpack a lot of things I've experienced in the line of work. And it has also helped me realize that I cannot do this for long. I've done this work for 15 years. It's time to, take a bow and go somewhere else and pivot. And as much as what I'm pivoting into still has links with advocacy, I am not going to be hearing things that I am hearing as much. And I'll, where I'm going to now, I'll be able to react. So if somebody does something, I can abuse them. I tell them that the head is not correct. But where I am right now, I can't. And I'm telling you, one thing I pray for, one thing I hope for, is that every advocate, especially in Nigeria, gets access to therapy. Because the work we do is crazy work. I do the same work here in Canada, and I will tell you that the difference is clear. Here in Canada, there are systems. You can call the police, okay, they will take it up, you follow up. In Nigeria, you will fight the police. You're fighting everybody. You're fighting your family. You're fighting yourself. Sometimes you're even fighting the client you're working with. So I'm grateful for therapy. I always say therapy has helped me in many, many ways, because this person that you see standing, smiling, it's a lot of work. My therapist, it's a lot of work. I will share a short story. So when I used to live in the shelter, I had a pact with my therapist. If I missed 2 sessions, she can come and look for me. I got tired. It's tiring sometimes, and this is the truth. Don't think that therapy is a walk in the park. It's not all dandy. It can get tiring. My therapist gets on my nerves. She annoys me. Half of the time, I don't like her. Half of the time, I like her. And I missed like 3 sessions. One day, I'm coming back to the shelter, and I see a police car outside, and I'm like, who did they come and catch again today? And I entered. Lo and behold, it was me. Police came to look for. So when they're like, oh, there she is, I'm like, who? Like you. Why haven't you gone for your sessions? And I'm like, I just got tired of talking, So oh yeah, it works. If you work in And that's why even at my office, it is compulsory. At least once a month, you must go, you must join the counseling unit, go meet them and unpack, talk about certain things, talk about how the work is impacting you and all that, because it does take a toll. It takes a toll.
Absolutely. And everything you just shared right now, it does resonate with me, especially the part of evolving.
Oh.
And we do same work, and I gotta tell you, people don't understand why I have shifted from that core advocacy, because a lot of us did not protect our mental health when we started the work in Nigeria. We are always just out there advocating. This case has come, boom. We are going for work. We are doing, there was no break. There was no system in place to check in with our mental health. And I had to confront my own truth. I can't deal anymore. I can't. And perhaps because of the cases that I had to deal with, and some of those cases are so sensitive, like you said, you won't know you've been invested your emotions into them. And therapy brought that to the fore for me. And when my therapist would say, why do you think you react this way, or why are you triggered by it? And I would say, because of this other case that I handled, and we had gotten to the stage of doing XYZ, and this woman pulled out, or this other case where the husband is an herbalist, and this guy is calling me in the middle of the night, trying all sorts, and you realize that it's the wife that actually gave the husband your number because she changed her mind. And or the person who had told me that someone, a notable figure in Nigeria, had raped her. And I know me now. I don't already 30 years reality, OPD. Oh yeah, let us please, And she insisted. She said you have to share. But at that time Timothy not burning. There was no more gra. And I'm like, girl, I ain't sharing nothing. Really, listen. Are you looking for social media validation or justice? Because I don't get it. Why is it share? Why do you want me to share? I prefer to handle such cases behind closed doors. Then if you now need to come on social media, we would have gotten to a stage where they cannot mess with the case. Because when you give out too much information, you already let the enemy know your next move. And I'm like, and I'm also protecting myself. I've got children. You guys don't even realize that. So you just want the advocate to just come at me like that. And, she got mad and said, why wouldn't you? I'm like, I'm not. If you want, go and make an official report. And then let me have the backing of government, because this person is important. And, she wouldn't, respond to my messages and all that. And I left her. Only for this person, important. Okay. Then she came back and said, okay, I'm not doing the case again. And it was actually not rape. And I'm like, okay. So what was it? She said, well, he has begged me. Anyway, blessing. The thing is, this lady gave this man my contact.
Oh yeah.
And you know what she said? She said, if she posts this thing on social media, I'm giving you a contact so that people would know that I'm not part of the case. So she had gone behind to get money from him. Yet she wanted me to post. Can you see how the devil works? So thank God for my own media background. And yeah, and this person, this important person told the media, one of my top egmons in the media, that you get, because me, I was already dropping jabs online. Like, something is, you can imagine. So, if me for help, like you threw me under the bus.
You know that my former number, I changed my number, right?
Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah.
One day, somebody called me. In this Canada, somebody called me. And he's like, leave my wife alone. You're not married. So you want to see other women like you. And I'm like, who the heck is this? It turned out that it's somebody I've worked with. Her partner used to hit her. And when they made up, she gave him my number. Guess what? She called me early this year. I don't know how she even got this new number. And he hit me. And for the first time, I'm like, I had to, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
No, this time, go and make the report yourself. You can tell them that you've told me, but go. Because I've
Yes.
made reports for you many times and your partner was calling, threatening me. And
Yeah.
and that's why I said therapy made me a better boundary setter. There are
Mm-hmm.
people that will call me. Normally, I don't mind because we all know how, especially here in Canada, the Black community is very distrusting of police and all that. So many times, if they want to report certain things, they would rather go through a community leader or something. But nowadays, I don't mind before, call me anytime. But now, this is my work hours. Except it is an emergency, please don't call me outside work hours for anything work related.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not something that I need to call the police for right now, please
Mm-hmm.
go through the right channel. Because before, people used to bypass all the channels and just call me. And I would, swing into action and then file through the right channels so that there's documentation. But right now, if it's not something that I have to call the police for, don't do that. Go through the right channels. Let there be a trail. Because I have
Yes.
learned, I've gotten into trouble. And my therapist has been like, wow. Like the first day she said it, I was upset. She was like, you're a people pleaser. I don't know if it's your work or your upbringing, but you are a people pleaser. And my body was pinching me. I'm like, how dare you say that to me? But
Mm-hmm.
I did realize that it might not be totally true, but it is true. There's an element of truth to it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's hard. It's hard to put your foot down. People are texting you at 7 p.m. in the evening and something happened. Do I need to call the police right now? No. Please call me 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. It's
Yep.
very hard because many times I am going to bed with a very guilty conscience. But I also have to think of myself. There are days that I have finished crying my eyes out. Last week, there was a day I received 10 rejections, pow, 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 emails, they just kept coming in. And I cried my eyes out. And someone called me, oh, she needs XYZ. And I wiped my eyes and, did what I wanted to do.
Something.
And I got back to my crying after. There are days I have to check my calendar. Like, I know that I need to cry, but I have to check my calendar. There's meeting tomorrow. There's this tomorrow. So I will schedule the cry. It has gotten to that point. But
Oh my
therapy
God.
helps me to learn it. Like, therapy helps me get to the point where I tell my manager, bros, if I do any work today, I will literally drop down dead. And he's like, what's wrong? And I tell him, there are days I'm on the phone with my manager, I'm on a Zoom call, and I am crying because I'm tired. You understand? So, but therapy helps me to set those boundaries, set those clear boundaries. It's hard. It's hard when you do this work, but when you do GBV work, therapy is going
Mm.
to help you. It's
Yeah.
going to
And that's
shine. There are certain things people call me for nowadays, and I'm like,
I don't
please,
I don't even
please,
be
I'm
honest. To
not
be
doing
honest with
this.
you, I love my peace. I told someone that the peace that I have now, girl, I'm not giving it like you've got like
Done
that
this
case.
work. I've done all this
Yeah,
work.
because people don't know, not apart from boundaries, there is also, I mean, looking at the dynamics of the two continents we've worked in, I'm still working in here, you realize that money control a lot of people back home. Meaning, if you were raped by somebody, and because this person paid you off, you threw the person you reported to under the bus because you were
Mm-hmm.
waiting that, okay, maybe Esther is going to post because I pulled out. But I'm like, okay. And thank God this media person now circled back to me like, girl, thank God you didn't take that case up. Oh. They were
Mm-hmm.
waiting for you to just post. That girl had already done a video recording to say, I was the one that made it. This, it could have been messy, right? But what I did to protect myself further, I had to block her everywhere. Block the people that even, linked me. Because sometimes in setting boundaries, you need to cut the branches too.
No, the
Because when
roots.
you don't,
You dig
and the
up the
roots,
roots. Yeah, you dig up the roots.
dig up the roots, cut everything that's going to link you to those
Yeah.
things, and bring back triggers. So, I
Yeah.
mean, just sort of like affirming to what you said and echoing your thoughts, in evolving when it comes to a career path.
Mm-hmm.
I found my purpose last year in terms of that. I told myself, I said, listen, that guilt trip, that I'm not into this advocacy thing anymore the way I used to, I'm dropping it because my mental health is suffering. I'm too involved in people's lives. And these people, sometimes they don't care. And you are in the middle of the case, you are making all those calls from one continent to the other. And somebody wakes up to say, Auntie Esther, I'm sorry, I just made up with my husband. I'm like, oh. He's not beating you again. No, 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 no. I'm not. We've resolved. Our family are okay. And you won't call me back again. I don't know if you heard the one case, woman that they did crowdfunding for. I don't know if you follow that case on Facebook. A domestic violence survivor she had 5 children.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
I told the story house there online. I think that was the point where I said to myself, no more. And look at the publicity. People donated. Erelu Fayemi mentioned them. People donated just so we can give this woman, proper accommodation with her kids, make her
I
feel good.
remember.
Only for this woman, December of that year, to go back to her husband. So while I was sending the monthly stipend to this woman, I was feeding the husband as well. So she was like that, she was in the place we had gotten for her in Mowe, not knowing she had gone back to Ikorodu, to the same man. And when she opened up and said, the way she said it, like, she said it in a way like, don't come for me. Like, this is what I have done. I don't need your counsel. I don't. And the bad part is that I've not even said this. I didn't say this when I posted on Facebook that I was stopping crowdfunding. She stole things that we bought for her when she left.
From the
But of course, yes. Yeah, you know how the media is. If I put that house there now, people they're gonna twist it to say, oh, because you have a voice. That's why I just let it go. I just let it go. It was recently that I heard that the man is beaten again. And when the person came, I'm like, girl,
It's
you
not
better
like
stop that.
it's not
I'm
like
not getting involved. It's not my problem anymore. She
So
had
you
all
see,
the support.
this question you asked me, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of young feminists make the same mistake. You know that for a lot of us, when we did this work, we didn't have, we didn't have, and this is not a dig to anybody. A lot of the older feminists in Nigeria didn't do a lot of mentoring. It is
Mm-hmm.
our generation that are doing the mentoring for those coming behind us. The ones ahead of us they just wanted to be at the table, first woman to, so they were not carrying us along. The rest of us learned on the job. We put ourselves out there and learned.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of young feminists make the same mistakes now, and I tell them,
Mm.
there's you must come to the point where you realize that there's a limit to what you can do. You cannot save everybody. You will do your part and you will leave the rest. You will do your bit and you will leave the rest. I can give you many scenarios from when I was in Nigeria, from working from the community straight to the policymakers, from up down to up, doing all that. You cannot save everybody. You have to
No.
get to the point where you realize that I cannot save everybody. So I will do my bit. The ones that are saved, good. The ones that have gotten the message and have held on to it for the day they will be saved, that's fine. And the ones who will never be saved, you wish them well and let
Let
it
them go.
go.
Yeah.
That is one of the ways that you will not impact yourself crazily, to
Yeah.
be honest, because I sit down and I look back. Like I had an exercise one day with my therapist. this is my therapy journal. I had an exercise with her one day, and she asked me to write down instances where I could have done certain things better. And to be honest, I did not like the realization of a lot of things that I have put myself through. The times where I could have been lynched for going head on. Oh, they are doing FGM here. I'm not waiting to even think and say, I'm just going, I've gone. And I sit down and I think many times, this could have gone wrong. A lot of things could have gone wrong. I went to meet a royal father, and he's telling me, I know that FGM happens, and I know that my community has the highest FGM this thing. What are you going to do about it? And I'm like, Emma Bino. And I go back. It could have gone wrong, and people need to get to that point. But, many times you can't get to that point on your own. It takes someone else to let you know that you have to get to this point. And so for me, when it comes to GBV, while there are certain things that, of course, I will still do because it's something that I am passionate about, I have gotten to the point where I tell myself, there are certain things I cannot do. There are certain things I will not do. Not because, but I have gotten to that point where if I do it, I like to put it out there that my mental health is hanging on a string. And, while I have made so much progress, it takes something very tiny to set me back. And then my therapist, starts to work. It takes something very tiny to twist something in my head, and I'm back to square one. And this is what people don't know about, like you said, trauma. Many times, especially when trauma, the scale of trauma, when trauma is on a scale that has unlocked something in your brain, there are things that will happen. It's not necessarily that trauma that you dealt with now that is affecting you, but the fact that things are not 100% anymore. Any small thing is going to, send you spiraling. And so therapy helps me realize that I'm not okay, number one. Number two, this job I'm doing, if I continue at the rate at which I am doing it, I will never be okay. So it's time for me to take a step back and do other things. And if you're here, you're watching this live, or you have friends who are into the GBV sector, please encourage them to go for therapy. They might not like the word therapy. Okay, they should go for counseling, but they need to talk to someone, because the work we do, especially if you do this work in Nigeria, the work, it impacts you on different levels. It doesn't just impact you, it impacts your family, it impacts a whole lot of stuff. You need to talk to someone, because you're storing it somewhere in your head, and it impacts everything in your life. It's going to affect your relationships. It's going to change your outlook on so many things. So you need to talk to someone. You need to lay it at the feet of someone who trained for this kind of things. I don't mind saying things to my therapist, because she trained, that's what she went to school for. So she really, I tell her all sort of things. Swear words that I would normally not use out there, because all of you expect me to be prim and proper. I will use them in front of my therapist, and she's not flinching, because she can take it. People, there are certain, working in Canada made me realize that there are certain sectors you work in, you actually have to see a therapist or a counselor.
Very important.
Because you will see things on a daily, and going to mess with your
Tell
head.
me about it.
So if you work in GBV or you know someone who works in that place, please tell them they need to go see a therapist.
Yeah. And, just to add to what you said in terms of, young, the young generation coming, after us. And what I have noticed online is people who don't have boundaries on themselves and the censor. Like, there are things that we did back in the days, people are pulling up receipt now because somebody wants to nail you to the cross. But that's, yeah, you said this, that's, and leave room for your ideology changing.
Mm-hmm.
Leave room for that. Because this is going to be on YouTube as well. Leave room for that. I made that mistake of not leaving room, for the future. Just because you see something in a particular way, that your thought process might change in 5 years. And at that time, you don't want people pulling up receipts to say, oh, really? But this year, it's not the ideology of your belief as an advocate, but just sort of like the things you even put out there. Ignorantly. You cannot fight for everybody.
Yeah.
There are people you should not drag. And that is because there are tables that look broken now. Those tables can be fixed in years to come.
But also, as much as there are tables that are broken, there are tables that you should also never sit on, no matter how welcoming they are.
Absolutely.
There are tables that, not because you don't have anything to impact on that table, but the mere fact that you are on that table takes away from your credibility. There are tables you should never. You should be able to beat your chest to say, they called me to this table, but I didn't sit on it.
And I see a lot of that happening, when there are popular cases and things go south, and then you hear the back end stories of the same people who are at the forefront taking stuff time. And you're out there, you are the one shouting and screaming, but these people got money. And I'm saying this uncensored. It's the truth. These things happen.
Oh, yeah.
So
of course,
when you see some of us not shooking mouth, in quotes, in certain sensitive and popular high profile cases, it is because there is a norm. And the norm is those of us who are passionate are the ones who hawk the matter, like Gala. So after the hawking, somebody is going somewhere behind closed doors to have a meeting. And you just see that the case will just fizzle out. That person is not talking about it anymore. But you are still there screaming. Yeah. So you are the one that will be blacklisted by the other parties to say, sorry. So I'm just trying to put it this out there. Like Blessing said, there are tables you should not sit on. Any table that somebody will come back 5 years to say, but you collected money during this case. I mean, there's a sensitive case going on right now about a particular doctor and some parties involved. Now, I see reason why I'm like, I'm happy because you think you're doing the job that you're supposed to do, which is the right thing. But there are people have their own dynamics when it comes to kind of cases they want to get involved in. So on one hand, you're advocating against somebody. You want somebody to be locked up. But on the other hand, you are privy of a particular situation you should be speaking out on, but then you're trying to cover it up. So it leaves that room for you to say, let me choose my battle wisely in public, because you might find out that the same people who are attacking are the same one in that same circle giving information to the people you are supposedly attacking. So, I mean, this is for advocates, so some of you might not understand the reason why I'm being careful with my words, but Blessing understands, and I'm sure Auntie Betty, who was on the show, sure understands. So if you see that sometimes, and I'm also putting it out there, because when you want to say, Esther, you're attacking me on different, listen, if they cannot go and report and there's government backing me, I don't get involved again. Yes. If there is no strong backing, I am not getting involved. Because you will not use my head to become relevant because of your case. You gather followers. No, it's true. You gather followers. And after that, you now say you're backing out. Backing out where? After all the stress and all that. So, Blessing, please, share your thoughts.
I think that I agree with you. And, I'd say that I did mention earlier that one thing therapy made me realize is that I cannot do everything. I used to do everything before. Hey, God. And as much as I might not be, carrying a megaphone and shouting about that I have done, I
Mhm.
would tell you that these 15 years, I have really put in the work.
Yes, you have.
But therapy made me realize that I cannot do everything. I cannot. And
No.
as much as I have done it before, of course, I was younger, I had
Mhm.
more time,
Mhm.
more.
Mhm.
I will not do that anymore.
Yeah.
And therapy also made me realize that it's okay to want to align with people who have the same values as yourself.
Yes.
So, for example, a lot of people think that I'm outgoing. Maybe because the kind of work I do makes us talk a lot. I don't like to go outside. I like to be in my
Like
house.
to go outside.
No, it's true. I like to be inside my house. And so I'm very careful. I'm very mindful.
Yes.
A colleague got into trouble one time. I have her permission to always share this story. We all do. She went for a party. In that party, there was a guy that the government was looking for sexual assault. She did not know. She just followed them go party. That's how they took group picture, and then they started inviting people in that group picture one after the other to come and talk about how they are close to this person.
Oh my
Meanwhile,
God.
she just honored an invite. It almost became something else. And the way it works here is that when you're being investigated, if you work in the community, first of all, if you work in my sector, you have to do a
Mhm.
business check. They will do
Mm.
vulnerable sector check. They will check
Mm.
if you have any record of
Yes.
crime or
Mhm.
stuff like that. And we do it yearly. Some organizations don't mind, they'll make you do it every 2 years. But some organizations,
Mhm.
every year, you must renew
Mhm.
your vulnerable sector check. So now
Mhm.
you've done a vulnerable sector check, and then you're in a group picture with a known sexual assault, person. How does
Mm.
it make sense? So
Mm.
therapy made me, get comfortable with telling people I didn't like to be leaving my house. And
Mm.
if I leave my house, like I will leave my house for certain people, but
Mhm.
before I do, I will myself mentally to attend, to
Mm.
go.
Mhm.
And I just learned to get comfortable with saying that I will come, but I'm not yet ready. Don't be angry. Therapy made me also realize that, I mean, I knew it, but from attending therapy, I just realized that, it's like somebody wants to be foolish sometimes. You and people are not always on the same plane. You might be
Yes.
working with 10 of us might be working on the same case, but we all have our different reasons for working on the case. Some of us are working on it because, of course, lock him up, tie stone around his neck and throw him into the river. Some people want to work on it because it's a high profile case and their names will be mentioned in it, as the people that brought this person to book. Everybody has what they are bringing, their own personal reasons and bias that they are bringing to the table. And that's
Mm.
why, like Esther said, I like that that part of my bio is very intentional. I always come with my intersections to everything I am doing. I will ask myself, how is this going to impact my mental health? And if I realize that this is a conversation that I don't want to be a part of, I will just
Mhm.
take a step back. How is this
Mhm.
going to impact my ideology, my politics?
Mhm.
You know, how is this going to impact certain things? I have a child, and as much
Mhm.
as for her own protection, of course, because of things that have happened in the past, I don't put her out there a lot, how is this going to impact my child? How is my involvement in this going to impact my child? There are certain things that when you know, and like I said, it's when you talk to someone else that you realize that before you were throwing caution to the wind and you were just misbehaving. You understand? It helps you become laser focused. One of the reasons also that I want to pivot away from this career is because of my child. I don't want people calling me anymore in the midnight. People call me in the midnight and sometimes I have to leave my house. Sometimes police has to come and pick me from my house because a community member is in trouble and they are not going to talk to anybody if Blessing is not there. And so police will come and pick me from my house. Me that already has issues with sleeping, they'll come and pick me and I will go there in the middle of the night. And I still have to go to work the next day, you know? So when I think of all these things, do I want that? I'm home with my child, someone comes, takes me away and brings me back. You never know how many hours you're going to spend. There's a lot, you know, these things are layers, and going for therapy helped. I'd say that in my own case, why I really enjoy working with my therapist also is because my therapist is brown and my psychiatrist, she's white, but she lived half of her life in Africa. She lived in South Africa and Ethiopia. So it helps when I'm talking to them about things, they know where I'm coming from. I don't have to start explaining because sometimes white people cannot relate. There are certain things you be telling the white person and they're like, this thing happens in your country. And I'm like, I beg. You're not the one that can help me. Because that means I have to now give you context of that thing before I tell you about myself. And so it's layers. And therapy really did that for me. I can tell you, I can count how many times. Okay, so in the first year of therapy, I was always talking about my children. Every time. Was my children. Second year of therapy, yeah, I used to still talk about my children, but I now start talking about my ex-husband. I start talking about other things, you know, and then now I talk about work, different subjects. Sometimes I rant about the most silly things ever, and she just sits there and listens. Sometimes I don't even talk. I just tell her that if you make me talk today, everything I'll tell you is a lie. So let me just sit down here and watch you. And I sit down there for an hour. After time has finished, I tell her, thank you so much. I'm a seesaw. And I go away till the next time. But, you know, all those levels, all those layers, it just helped. One thing that therapy did for me was put things into perspective. So when my kids died, a lot of people don't know that. When my kids died, I was away at work. And the first person that called me said, you're always traveling. In Yoruba, you're always traveling. Should be your children have died now. And so it affected me. Every time I want to do work, a part of me gets scared that, okay, what's going to happen? You understand who's going to die, you know, stuff like that. And therapy just helped me put a lot of things into perspective. It helped me put things people have said to me in perspective. It helped put my work into perspective. Like, my therapist is one of the very first people that I really bragged about work to. Because she told me that, Blessing, you just talk about your children, you just, you know, talk about your ex-husband, you just talk about, tell me about work. And I started, like, that day, it was just as if something unlocked inside me, and I just started talking. This is what I've done, that's what I've done, This is what I've done, like this. And she's like, hey, you know, that's like the first person I really sat down and I bragged to. And it made me feel very good. But therapy also helped me. It healed my relationship with work. Because before, that's okay. I know that a lot of people know my former username on Twitter to be Supergirl Timidi. It was therapy that made me change that name. Therapy made me change that name because I got to the point where I realized that I have done a lot, but I cannot do everything. So I am not super. Please, please, please. I'm not super. I'm not strong. I'm not. Don't give me all those strong adjectives. I don't want it. It was therapy that made me get there. I'm like, I denounce this super girl. I denounce it. I don't want it again. So it put a lot of things into perspective for me. And when people send me DMs asking me, I want to go for therapy, what's your advice? I always tell them, be truthful. Because sometimes the truth you're going to tell or the truth you're going to face is ugly. Healing is ugly. I will tell you that many times. I always joke about it, but it's the truth. I have a bed space in the psychiatric ward downtown. When I say people, because when I say I'm always smiling, people think, oh, she's just joking. I actually do have a bed space. Like, if I call them now and say, I need to come and sleep on my bed, they will make that bed available. But I got to the point, it was during therapy, I got to that point to tell myself, I'm not okay. I'm not okay half of the time. And many times I need help. Many times I need supervision. Many times I cannot trust myself to be alone. Many times, as much as I don't want to be alone, I also don't want to be with people. I have what I want to say in my head. I don't want to be alone sometimes, but I also don't want to be with people. Especially then you have to now ask me, how are you doing? Asking me every minute, how am I doing? How am I doing? It drives me nuts. So I just call them and tell them, I want to come in for a few days. And I go, I stay. I'm not ashamed of it. There's nothing to be ashamed of there. I've not really gone this year, thanks to God, but I used to go. I used to really go. And a lot of times people don't know because I'm still tweeting. Sometimes even when I'm posting pictures on Instagram, I am in the psych ward. I just posted a picture that I've always had in my, in my camera roll. I just posted there. But therapy is not a walk in the park. You come with everything that you come as you are. And then if you tell the truth, you will leave a lot of things behind. My therapist always says, oh, you're not the person I met in 2018. And I'm like, girl, yes, I'm not the person you met in 2018. What are you talking about? As we evolve. Even my therapist has evolved. She's not the person I met in 2018. My psychiatrist too has evolved. She has printed her hair. But that's not the point. Therapy for healing is layered. And to be honest, people don't realize many times that the areas of our lives are intertwined. So while I was going to therapy for the loss of my kids, but I also realized that I needed therapy for work. It didn't help that I started to resent the work. I started resenting. I liked the work, but I started resenting it because I was not at home when it happened. And so I indirectly blamed work. Then there was blame from people. There was the religious angle. Therapy just, the layer, we would take it off one after the other. And I'm hoping that, especially in Nigeria, therapy becomes more mainstream. And then globally, I pray that therapy, and I hope that therapy becomes more affordable, because therapy is expensive. It is expensive.
Yes.
Despite the fact that
Yes.
therapy
Very much so.
is subsidized for me right now, and I still complain. I always imagine that if it wasn't subsidized, I'll not go again. No, I will not go again, because it is expensive. There's nothing to
Yes.
be ashamed of when someone is seeing a therapist. There's nothing. Personally, you cannot even shame myself, because if I wasn't seeing my therapist, believe me, I know that there's a place for prayer, there's a place for self-effort, there's a place for community, but to be honest, you don't want to body. There are certain things you don't want to burden your community with. Not everybody has the capacity also to, hear certain things. When people ask me, how are you sure you really want to hear the truth? Because if I tell you the truth, you can, headache can catch you, So there's no shame. There's no shame. And one thing that so when I first came to Canada, my church is a white church, predominantly white church. And one thing I like about the pastor is that he's mentioned all these things. So my church is not a church that, yes, as much as they will pray for you when you're having mental health issues, my church is not the church that will say depression is an evil spirit. No. All those stuff. No. And that has also helped, because I know that religion plays a very big role, when people need to access services. My pastor is very open about his own struggles, he's needed surgeries, he's needed, intervention on his own. And he's usually very open. He'll come to church and say, this is the intervention that I had to, access. A lot of Nigerian churches don't have that. And so you need to, there are certain things, please, if you are a born-again Christian here, a Nigerian born-again Christian, I apologize to you in advance for what I want to say. There are certain interventions you will want to seek. You have to drop the voice of your pastor, drop it aside. You understand? And look, it's Jesus you should face. Has Jesus condemned you from seeking therapy? No. The people that are doing this therapy, where did they get their knowledge from? If just look at what you think God would have wanted you to have. And if your pastor didn't train as a therapist, please, your pastor is not a therapist. Please. The psychiatric hospital I use, they have Christian therapists, Christian psychiatrists. Sometimes I don't want to hear Bible. Sometimes I don't want to hear it, because sometimes I feel, why did God allow me go through all this stuff? So I don't want to hear it. So when I go there and they're like, do you want a Christian psychiatrist to come see? I'm like, nope, keep them away from me. Sometimes I actually want them to come, they are the ones I want, because I want someone to pray for me or to pray with me. But there is nothing demonic about therapy. There is nothing demonic about seeing a psychiatrist. If you have to use antidepressants, there is nothing demonic about it. It doesn't take away. See, you can have Jesus, you can have Allah, and still have a therapist, and still have a psychiatrist. It takes nothing away. It takes nothing away. Your goal, your end goal is healing. What you should do is tailor your expectation, tailor the services to, to your values. That's it. But you can have Jesus,
Mm.
you can have Allah, and
Yes.
still have a therapist and still have a psychiatrist. And I hope that,
Mm-hmm.
in years to come, therapy will be more mainstream and it will be more affordable because, again, that's one reason people don't access therapy. The fact that it's not very
Mm-hmm.
mainstream, there's a long wait list. In countries like Nigeria, people are worried
Mm-hmm.
about confidentiality issues. You don't want to go and talk to somebody that will now
Exactly.
use you to go and tweet
Cast you.
or, talk to someone that knows about you, those kind of stuff. And then affordability. If affordability, somebody said the timing for therapy. Oh, yes, I agree. Uncle Kunle, yes, the timing for
Mm.
therapy is also very important, to be honest. Um, I agree. Many times you have to come to that, you have to come to that decision yourself. You have to realize
Mm-hmm.
that you need therapy. In my own case, my community, my first therapy, my first, how many therapy sessions? I attended a few before I left Nigeria. It was my community that, put it together. Uh, the therapist then was a member of my community also. So it was my community that put it together and encouraged me to go. But the moment I moved to Canada, apart from the fact that the government mandated it, I knew that
Mm-hmm.
I needed it. So even when I go for therapy nowadays, I'm not going because Justin Trudeau is going to come and catch me. Wait, is this white hair? Oh, wow, it's much. Sorry, I get distracted. Anyway, I'm not going because Justin Trudeau is going to arrest me. No, I'm going because I need it. So yes, the timing is also important. It mustn't be too early. It mustn't also
Mm.
be too late. And sometimes you might just, you might go for a feel. A lot of times I've had to refer people. People ask me, who should I go and meet? I say, okay, if you're in Abuja, talk to Sam Obafemi, talk to this person, talk to that person. Sometimes you just realize that, okay, it's because they are dealing with something at that moment. They just need therapy for that moment. Some of us need, I hope it's not going to be lifelong, but some of us need therapy for a very long time for us to function.
Yes.
So yeah, timing is also very
Yes.
important. But if you
Yes.
have to, please do. If you work in the GBV sector, please
Mm-hmm.
go for therapy or counseling. If you work in the
Mm-hmm.
social service sector, please. If you're a new mother, if you're a new mother,
Mm.
you just had a baby, if you can
Mm-hmm.
afford it, please talk to a therapist, talk to someone,
Mm-hmm.
because that
Mm-hmm.
new change can affect you. If you if you're an advocate, please go for therapy. If you've suffered any form of loss, children, parents, something, go for therapy.
Mm-hmm.
If you've
Mm-hmm.
gone through divorce, go for therapy. You need
Mm-hmm.
it. Please go for
Mm-hmm.
therapy. You need it.
Absolutely.
There are
Thank you
certain there are
so much.
certain things, there are certain things. In fact, if you relocate, I'm adding relocation to the list. If you relocate
Mm.
from, especially Nigeria, you relocate from Nigeria
Mm.
to somewhere else in the world, please talk to someone,
Mm.
because there's usually that struggle. There's a change, culture shock and all
Mm.
that. Go for therapy. If you're a politician, especially a politician that you know that you don't want to be stealing money, go for therapy, because it's not easy. There are many instances where you just need to talk to someone professionally. And I'm stressing professionally
Mm-hmm.
because many times people will go and talk to their pastors or their alpha or someone. I'm not saying it's bad though, but if your pastor is not a trained guidance and counselor, or a trained therapist
Mm-hmm.
or a trained psychiatrist,
Mm-hmm.
then it's defeating the
Mm-hmm.
purpose, because they would only be talking to you from the Bible. and quoting the Bible to you. But many times you need someone to walk with you, to talk with you, to, unpack a lot of things. And if you ever go for therapy, please don't lie. There's no point paying exorbitant money going for therapy and lying. Do not lie. If you know you go there and lie, don't go. Just wait till you are ready. It's okay to tell your therapist, I don't want to talk about this. I tell my therapist a lot. Sometimes she asks me questions and I'm like, don't ask me that thing, please. Don't, because I know that I'm not ready to talk about it. And if you make me talk about it, I feel I lie for you. I will lie. Even you will be happy that I lied to you. So don't ask me about it because I don't want to talk about it. And we've gotten to that point. I'm comfortable with saying, I'm not there. I don't want to talk about this thing. Please leave me alone, If you're going to lie during therapy, why go? Don't go. Because the only way therapy can help you in your healing journey is if you're truthful. And before you can be truthful to someone else, especially in that capacity, you have to be truthful to yourself. You have to tell yourself the truth. We Yorubas have a saying that in the case of therapy, Tobati Antonio, if you are deceiving every other person, don't deceive yourself. You're assessing therapy because you know that you need help. And I actually like the question Esther asked me about forgiveness. I feel that a lot of us, especially as Black people and as Christians, we have a very unhealthy relationship with forgiveness. As much as the goal is to forgive someone, please let us tell ourselves the truth. Forgiveness is also not an easy venture. You are a human being, you have emotions. The best way, personally for me, let me put a caveat now, for me, I have learned that the best way to forgive someone is after I have processed it. If you force me to forgive someone, I say, okay, I've forgiven them, and I did not process it, I will be filled with resentment for them. There's a possibility that even you that asked me to forgive, I will be filled with resentment for you. But the best way I have learned to forgive people is to, process what they did to me, how it made me feel. Sometimes I even process my own role in the matter. How did you do this thing to me if I did not allow you? When I process it, it's easier for me to let it go. It's okay, and I know that a lot of people might not like this. It's okay to take your time to forgive someone. It's okay.
I don't know what is wrong with the network.
Yeah, I think it's your network now, not mine.
Yes.
It's your network. If forgiveness takes you years, please take it. So that when you forgive the person, you are forgiving the person wholeheartedly. There are people that I have forgiven that sometimes when they even mention their names, I'm like, who is that? Because truly, I have forgiven them and I have let it all go. If it was at the beginning of when everything was happening, just tell me forgive them. Now lie. Because the effects of, whatever happened has stayed with me. So if you are going to therapy because you expect that once they talk to me today, I will forgive the person next tomorrow, you are in for a shocker, because many times therapy is going to dig up certain things and you realize that forgiveness is not as easy as people make it to be. But therapy is a very good and important tool for healing. Irrespective of what you're going for therapy for, it's very important. I think that's from me.
Mm.
Oh, someone is trying to send me a message. I don't know. Sorry. Sorry,
Thank
I
you so
cannot read
much for
anybody's
listening.
messages till we are done with this live. I'm so
Same
sorry.
here. Same here, but it's fine. Same here. I think it's gonna when I download it, the network is it's fine. No, it's fine. I believe that the downloaded version will, let us see. We might not be able to see those who joined in, but I think there's a bit of network glitch.
Okay.
But then, of course, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much for sharing and and above all for teaching us the power of therapy. I mean, I listened with very rapt attention just to get, the core message of today, and that's the importance of therapy, not lying to your therapist. And like you said, a lot of people do that. If you lie to yourself, you lie to another person, do not lie to your therapist. Because if you need the healing, then you got to take the process seriously. Yep. So, Blessing, thank you so much. Thank you again for those who joined. I truly, truly appreciate your time today. I'm sorry about the network glitch. Totally beyond me. But the video is going to be available on my YouTube channel. And of course, myself and Blessing, we might have to sort of like work out a short video where we'll pick out some punchlines from this conversation and we can post that strategically, for Instagram. Just for folks who perhaps missed the session. But, so we apologize for the network glitch. Some things are really beyond us. Maybe the network needs therapy too. Thank you, Blessing. I wish you a beautiful evening, and thank you everyone for joining. God bless you. Have a good one. Bye.